Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. I hope everyone's doing well today. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Beastmen, Khazrak the One Eye in particular, and going over a couple tips to help you get their new achievements that launched with the Shadows of Change DLC. So I'm usually a short victory kind of guy, but I went ahead and did a endgame crisis against the Wood Elves that triggered on long campaign victory, and I did have a good time. The campaign's definitely a lot longer than I'm used to, but yeah, so we'll jump into it. So the long campaign victory for the Beastmen, or at least for Khazrak, is destroying the Empire, raising or conquering the Oak of Ages, and going ahead and looting, occupying, raising, or sacking 80 different settlements. His short campaign is just destroying Middleland and 35 settlements. His starting army uh, is not the greatest. I won't hide that. He has a Bray Shaman of Death, which is good. The Beastigore is good. Razorgore Chariot is good. Minotaur is good. And then he's got a bunch of Ungors. He does give all the Ungors poison for just the Lord. So that is kind of helpful in the early game because you're going to have a lot of Ungors to start off. He has Vanguard for the Razorgore and Beastigores, which is nice. He also reduces Bestial Rage when he's in the hidden encampment stats, which, it's there, but you're going to be very, very on the move, so you're not going to notice that too much or have any issues with your Bestial Rage. His faction effects, however, he has two that are very good. Dread cost -15 for all unit capacity upgrades, which helps out throughout the entire campaign. You're always going to be wanting to add new units or more powerful ones. Ambush success chance, which is big because of the Beastman stances, always welcome. And there is the evasion and the Beast Pass, which is so-so, depending on how much you use that. So his starting position is in the northern part of the Empire. He does have Festus nearby, which you'd probably want to ally yourself with. You can have a trade agreement, make a little bit of money there. You get access to some of their units. They're usually kind of slow, but having a couple of free Chaos Warriors in your roster, especially since you might want to save your Dread for other things, is always welcome. Uh, the Beastman roster does really have a lot of fast units and works based on that, but the Chaos Warriors will make it into combat and will be impactful once they're there. So yeah, I recommend it. So you're gonna be fighting a lot of Empire, but your initial battle is probably really where the difficulty sets in against the Wood Elves, because you're gonna want to take that forest as fast as possible, and it is hard. So what I did, I had the Razor Gore chariots running around in circles, kind of tiring out the units, the enemy's army, and having my entire forces hiding into a forest. So once I saw they were tired, I kind of led them towards that forest and then jumped out and got all their squishies with my good units and held the fort with the Ungors since they have poison attack, and I didn't have much difficulty once I sprung that trap. You have the Bray Shaman who can cast Life Leech on their lord and have Khazrak take care of him real quick. So it's definitely doable. And once you've done that, then the really, really hard parts out of the way, and you can start to build and expand past that. So their start is very doable. Um, once you start attacking Midland, Franz will probably get interested and want to come meet you. So get ready for Karl Franz's army, but you have everything you need to defeat them. So to talk a little bit about the bread and butter of the Beastman rework. So Marks of Ruination, I'm going to assume that everybody knows how they work. you erect a herdstone, you have a blood ground, which is indicated in the red areas, and they have numbers over the settlements. You go and destroy them, you do other battles, and the number increases. You trigger the ritual and you get a bunch of these ruination points. So as your ruinations increases, your ruination level increases, which gives you access to increasing capacity for different units, army capacity, which is definitely needed. Beastmen armies are free, so the more capacity you have, the stronger you are, because you could just fill it with Ungor Raiders, and it's significant since it costs you nothing once you have them. And as you go in, you can get more Herdstone shards, so you can start having, multiple blood ground areas, and helping you get more and more of the ruination, marks of ruination, and progressing like that, as well as decreasing the cost of your horde buildings, which is uh, very useful because they do get quite expensive as you go on. So this is the bread and butter of the Beastmen rework. So throughout the campaign, you're going to be collecting a currency called Dread. So Dread has multiple functions. One of the main ones is increasing your unit caps for the various units. So a couple things that you want to keep in mind is the units that or the ones here that will give you multiples. So let's take Centaurs, for example. You're going to spend X amount of dread to increase the level, and it does increase every time you do it. And it will give you one of each Centaur. And that is impactful because Centaurs are only one-turn recruits. And one-turn recruits are very useful in this campaign because let's say you get into battle, you have a bunch of wounded units, you can merge them together, and with the empty slots open, you can then purchase them in one turn. So you can keep the momentum going by always like merging the units and buying fresh ones every single time since it costs you nothing. So, like the clusters, like the Centaurs that are one turn, Pharaoh Manticore and Harpies, they have their uses. Those of you who did purchase the Shadows of Change, you will see that you got access to the Inkheart Elemental Beasts and the Zangors. It is a buff because all of these units start as you get one for free. So having the free Zangor and the free Elemental once you can recruit one through a building is always nice to have. Like just one thing that you don't have to spend dread on. And I did use a lot of Zangors. They are pretty powerful. Not saying that you should buy the DLC just to get access to Zangor in any regard, but I did use them a lot. So things that you should know or focus on depending is what can you get out of the Hearthstone settlements and what can you get at one turn. So here's some like 10 samples of one turn recruits. So if we're going to start looking at the gores, so you have the gore herd with shields and the regular gore herd. Those who like to auto resolve, I will warn you, gore herds do not do well in auto resolve. They almost always die, so you're always going to be recruiting more, which is fine. They're one turn recruits, but they don't do very well in auto resolve. Gore herds with shields do a bit better. Zandors are very good. Like if you look, they have the barrier. They have 80 armor compared to the 15 with the gore herds. They have magical melee. They're they're pretty tough. I was using them quite a bit. Chaos Spawn is another option. They're unbreakable anti-infantry. They have poison attack in their melee, so that's something of use. Pharaoh Manticores. The Centaurs are very good when you're So when you just spawned a new army, even if it's at the late game and you want to get this army up and running as soon as possible, Centaurs are definitely an option because you get one of each. And those with some Zangors or some Gores, Ferromanticars, all really good things. There are other units that are one-turn picks, but if you want, you can pause here just to take a look at their stats and see what you would like to put in your armies. But these are good to note. Also, another note is when you spawn a fresh army, you won't have all the buildings you need for the higher tiers. So you may want to look over at the settlements on the left-hand side of what you can get from a maxed out herdstone. So Cygors, I used a ton of Cygors. Cygors are one of their best units. They're your artillery. They don't do terrible, and actually they do pretty well in close combat. So you fire off your rocks when people get close to you. You can still fight pretty well. Minotaurs, giants. These are all things that you can recruit from the building to help you out in the early game, or when you just spawned your new lord. Furthermore, with Dread, the Beastmen do very good in playing catch 'em all. They You can confederate using Dread, and I highly recommend it. I did this at the beginning, so I started with Khazrak, and then the first one I confederated was Morgur. So Morgur is his starting position is just in just south, and when I confederated him, he was still alive and in Bretonia, which was perfect. So I was able to push him north, destroying and getting ruination marks along the way, and he met up with Khazrak, and the two of them just steamrolled through everything. After that, I went for Malagor, who is still alive and in the Badlands, which was great. So I started pushing him south, destroying things along the way, fighting Skarbrand. You could ally with Skarbrand. I chose to fight him. And then when I finally got to Torax, though, unfortunately, he was gone. So I spawned him in next to Malagor, and the two of them pushed their way. You also use Dread to increase your hero capacity, and I highly recommend it. All three of these heroes are very, very strong and serve good purposes within your army. So you're going to want every army to have all three of those. So other items that you can get, or other upgrades that you can get with Dread, are helping you upgrade your herd stones. So once you increase the level using your Dread, it costs you nothing to increase your already created herd stones, and any ones that you would create prior will start at the level that you have upgraded. So if you get it to 5, as soon as you decide to create a herdstone, it will start at tier 5, which is great because then you can start recruiting Cygors right from there, Minotaurs and all that fun stuff. The real goal of getting it to tier 5 is that you can have this herdstone defend for itself. You don't have to protect it. They have great garrisons. They have some extra buildings. Some of them will help you with the casualty replenishment. Some can spawn plagues that can be useful. I went for the one in the top middle, which starts like at level 1. It allows you to get a Bray Shaman, which I really found that I was able to get value out of when I was getting attacked and taking the battle manually. It also helps with increasing your dread, and if anybody knows if there's a cap to these, because at the beginning I was having a great time, watching my dread increase from battles, but near the end game I didn't see it being very impactful as I was building this. So if anybody knows if there's a cap, please let me know in the comments below. And then also the one to the right of that, the Beastly Pendonium, because I really wanted it just for the garrison, so the Beastigor herds and the Minotaurs. One odd thing, though, is once you have all these buildings, I noticed that my Bray Shaman gets taken away from the garrison, which is not ideal. I do like having the Bray Shaman, so I don't know why I can't just get rid of one of my Gore Herds for it, but even without the Bray Shaman, the garrison fights really well. There was changes, which now there is a Hearthstone map that you can build towers on. You start with zero supply, so you do have to wait, but still, nonetheless, having building a tower mid-battle can help with the extra damage. So the other things that you can get with upgrades is for your starter lords, having them with pre-built buildings and also as a tier 2 horde settlement. You can also use this section to increase your army capacity in the late game. So this is, you're going to spend a lot of time in this picture, increasing army capacity at the end game. Here is what a horde building looks like, or the horde section when you have all those upgrades at the top and are building a new army. So you can see that you can start building a lot of the tier 1 units, so Centaurs with great weapons, stuff like that, so you have more variety in the buildings and can, go to the tier 2s of those and get Pharaoh, get your Pharaoh, Manticore, or the spawns quicker. So also, if you look to the right of these buildings, you have a section called support. This is a very important section. So the others are just, for horde growth. And if you, as you're increasing your horde encampment, it'll increase growth for all other hordes. So that, the more armies you have, the more that you level up the horde encampment, the faster the others grow. So keep that in mind. But in the support section, you have these 4 buildings. So each of these 4 usually gives a army ability. Some are better than others. So the first one is where you you recruit your shaman. It'll help you with your Winds of Magic, and it has the Shatterstone ability. So this, for all siege battles, is super impactful if you're going to take it manual, because then you just shatter the wall. If there is a unit on that wall, they take some damage and you can walk through the hole, and it really helps with the way the Beastmen play, just running in there and capturing. The whole of the Beast Filth is one of the more important ones because it gives you dread per turn. So you can get a lot of dread, because if you have this at max level with a lot of armies, you're going to see your dread increasing every time. This is very important. It also has a ability, so at the max level, for the first 60 seconds of combat, so this really works well with their ambush stances. So for the first 60 seconds, all of the enemies will have -8 melee defense. The enemies will all have -10 leadership, and they will lose their charge defense if they have any. So you're running in and they're going to feel your charge. So this helps out a lot with Centaurs and stuff like that in the the first 60 seconds. Then, of course, you have another really important building with the Totems of Horns. So this will help you get your items, income from post-battle loot, which is huge, because outside of that, you're getting like $50 for every trade agreement. They don't have anything that they get passively, so every time you fight, you get an extra lump sum of cash. The ability is interesting. So like I said before, you're gonna want a lot of one-turn recruits, and this ability is one reason why. So the ability is called Touched by the Moon. So as you can see here, it gives massive boosts with armor piercing, base physical damage, resistance, and unbreakable for about 44 seconds. And then after that, essentially your unit dies. So it will make your gore herd, let's say, for example, it'll make them pack way above their pay grade at the cost of death, which really works in the Beastman's favor, because you know, you could put them up against something a lot bigger than they are, and they'll come out victorious, and maybe even have some time to attack another unit, and they will die, and then right after that you just recruit another one. So huge benefits to this, but don't use it on something that costs extra turns to recruit, because then you're going to lose momentum. You're going to want to keep those, you know, do it once and keep those guys alive, and you'll have you know, replenishment in the encampment and with the war gore and whatnot. And then the last one is one that I didn't use too much. It does reduce the range of archers and remove some of their replenishment, their sorry, not replenishment, but their ammunition. It could definitely come in handy, but you know, I usually had some feral manticores that would go take care of those ranged units. So I didn't, or you know, Centigar is also running in there, so I didn't really use this too much, but if you see a use for it, go for it. No issues there. Moving into the item section. So most of these items are great. I'm just going to highlight a few very important ones. So Battle Scarred Ungor Raider on the left side at the bottom is something that every Lord should have because of the campaign movement range. Movement range is very important. I don't think anybody would disagree. So you want to spend that $3,000 as soon as you get an army. It's or 3,000 favor, I should say. It's optimal. It's very good. Another big one is the Blind Eye of Seeing, which is the in the middle of the right section at the top. This gives you bound spell Sigors. Enough said. Bound spell Sigors, so free Sigors, no winds of magic. So everybody who is magical, every Bray Shaman you have should have this for free Sigors. It costs a lot, 7,000 favor, so keep that in mind, but it is worth it. It is absolutely worth it. The others, again, everything's good. Fill in where you need it, but those are ones that I definitely want to highlight and was using myself a lot. So now moving into building your armies. So here's some examples. So in the early game with Khazrak, you know, I was able to, you know, you get him Zangors, you get him one of everything. I didn't want to spend a lot of dread in the early game because I was saving it because I wanted to play Pokemon and get all um, the different legendary lords as quickly as possible. So I was kind of on a budget wherever I had, you know, one free one, like the one Zangor, I would definitely go ahead and do it. Then, as you can see later into the game, I started having a little bit more dread to play around with. I had some room to get and a couple extra Zangors, and then I had, you know, one capacity for a giant, and of course the heroes, which, as I mentioned before, are very important. And then later, you know, it starts building up and you're getting big armies, and you can add more beasts to this. I was having fun using the beastigors, but use what you want. And then at the bottom is just a sample of what an army, so a freshly spawned army could be, because the Cygors and the Giants and the Chaos Spawn are things that you can purchase from a settlement, and then you can just get it a tier up and start getting him the Zangors. So this is a great example of like a scratch army where you have just very little dread and want to get this operational as within, let's say, 3, 4, or 5 turns, something around there, and ready to go. So this is something you can look into based on your dread budget. You know, add some better things if you can, or take away some of the things if you can't. But yeah, these are some ideas. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about their Bestial Rage meter. So the Bestial Rage meter is pretty much the more you're fighting, the more you're raiding, the higher it is, and you get the benefits that go with it. If it goes too low, then they're going to start fighting each other, and you're going to end up having to have them have your army hurt. So you're going to want to min-max that. So at the highest level, it gives bonuses to your casualty replenishment, your horde growth, and your charge bonus, so handy to have. And just beneath that, you only get +3 horde growth, so you're missing out on that casualty replenishment, which can be vital. So you're going to want to do a lot of raiding. As you can see, raiding increases it by 3. Fighting also helps tremendously with keeping that high. You're going to have the hidden encampment that you need to go into once in a while for either replenishment or building a building or recruiting something. So make sure that your bestial rage is on the higher end before you do that, and then switch back into raiding or go and attack something to make up for it. They also have the bestial paths, which is kind of a neutral. It will lower your bestial rage, I'll tell you. But yeah, so you're going to want to use that to get it through mountains or impassable areas really quickly. And then, of course, the final stance is the ambush stance, which is their bread and butter and one of the fun things about playing the Beastmen. And as Khazrak, you have a lot of bonuses to increasing that stance. So you have their initial 15. You have a technology called Death from the Shadows, which is an additional 10. And then if you decide to go through their blue skill line, which, I highly recommend because it has some other bonuses, you could potentially get an extra 10%. So 35% extra. It's quite impactful. So moving into the Beastmen's tech tree, I'm going to be using Warhammer Planner for this. How the Beastmen work is they have a bunch of challenges that will help them unlock different techs. So I'm just going to list off 5 techs that I think that you should look into their challenges and prioritize them. Each of them are very powerful. So starting with the Herd Ravages, when you can unlock this one, you can get 10% movement, which is huge. Death from the Shadows, which will increase your ambush. The Strong Survive, Dread, which is very important, as I mentioned before. Horns of War, which gives your heroes and lords the Guardian ability, and as I mentioned, it's very advisable to have one of each. And then for the last pick, I'm going to use Consume Order, which will reduce the Winds of Magic needed and the cooldown for your spells. Um, I'm going to touch it very lightly on the level ups for Khazrak. So first of all, we'll take a look at his items. You have the Dark Mail, which has good self buffs, tons of armor, damage resistance, and whatnot with the Dark Mail effect when he's in melee. He has the Scourge, which discourages, gives a huge leadership penalty to those that are discouraged, and helps with the post-battle loot, of course. So these you can definitely go after. So there's no real wrong way to build Khazrak, but I want to highlight this for all Beastmen characters is the blue line. The blue line has casualty replenishment for your big unit, so your 2-turn recruits or whatever that you're gonna not want to be replacing all the time. They have a lot of money increases here as well. So like post-battle loot is always welcome. Replenishment is always welcome. So depending on what you need. So let's say for Khazrak, I just want to go money, and then go down this line maybe later. But the other things that are necessary. So this one, as I mentioned before, helps your ambush chance. And Lightning Strike is also very nice to have with all characters, especially for endgame crises, because if for whatever reason your ambush doesn't go off, you can fall back on Lightning Strike in order to make sure that there's only one army you're facing and not all that spawn, all four of them, so you can hit one at a time and go on and so forth. So you can go this route, down this route, and of course this will help with your bestial range, movement, and whatnot. So there's no real bad way of going through this. He's got some great choices. Do you need the missile resistance because you're fighting against the Empire and the Wood Elves? Probably. This is probably a good pick. Do you want the extra damage? It's not a bad pick. Um, and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's no real bad way to build up here. I just really want to highlight the blue skill line. Even here, like if you want if you're gonna have an army that you're gonna just keep tier one or one turn recruits, Tazgors or whatnot, then going Gathering of the Beasts to help them pull in a whole new army after one fight could be really useful to you. The blue line is definitely not to be overlooked when it comes to the Beastmen. I'll say that. So two of the lower choices that I recommend. So the generic one I usually skip. So the Doombull is quick. He's got 64 speed with huge effects, daze, armor piercing. Like he's just a big boy at level 1, and it has multiple ways of gaining buffs. He's very, very powerful for a lord, and can go in there and duke it out with legendary lords even. I really like the Doom Bull. And like, just to show you some, the second choice I would have is definitely the Great Bray Shaman. Mounted on a Razor Gore chariot, he's only speed faster. Like, that's how fast the Doombo is. But the other one is the Great Bray Shaman, and really he's got two things going for him. An increase, he has a Hex, so he debuffs the enemy, and he does have Bound Spell to summon Cygors. So you can do that, as well as he's very good spellcaster and has good things at buffing monsters. So it's really between the two. I usually went a lot more Doom Bulls than I did Great Bray Shamans. But yeah, just something for you guys to keep in consideration. But either way you go, don't forget about their blue line. And that comes to the end of our video. I want to thank you guys all for your time, and especially for those who came and reached out and commented on the last video, the 4 years of DLC. That video was super. Thank you all for the support on that one and coming around and commenting. I will be doing a part 2 of that in the near future. And yeah, so with that said, if you could give this video a like, subscribe, I appreciate it, and have yourself an amazing day and happy achievement hunting. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.